Hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, albeit virtually, at the All Things Open Conference 2021. Open source is the latest technology hype, right? Well, okay, maybe not for you guys, but for some people it is. Let me tell you a little bit of our journey at Daimler/Mercedes-Benz from a traditional car manufacturing company to a company which embraces FOSS, free and open source software, and has made a commitment to open up as much as we possibly can. Maybe our story can help you too, if you're in a similar position and you're trying to spread the good word of FOSS at your company. So to give you a little bit of a background about us, Daimler is the mother company of Mercedes-Benz. And as you perhaps know, we manufacture basically vehicles, mainly passenger cars, vans, buses, and trucks. As a company, we have been around for quite a long time. And traditionally, at our core, we are a mechanical engineering company. So we bend steel sheets in certain ways, and in the end, the car comes out. So just a couple of months ago, I got myself a new one of these cars, and I really like it. It's quite nice, but it has one very interesting accessory that caught my attention, and I brought it here with me. So it is this thing here. You can find it with the instruction manual in the glove compartment. And when you look inside, it is a small CD. But the car doesn't even have a CD player anymore, which doesn't matter because it's not an audio CD anyway. It is a data CD. But my company laptop here also doesn't have a CD drive anymore. So how do I know what's on it? Well, fortunately, it's labeled. And so it says license information, free and open source software, and Mercedes-Benz uses free and open source software with several of its products. So this CD contains all the open source license information pertaining to your particular vehicle. And if you, like me, don't have a CD drive anymore, you can go to this website. The URL is right here. Punch in your vehicle identification number, and you can get all the information there as well. Clearly, the CD as such is a thing of the past. And we are right now working on doing away with it, which isn't actually as easy as it sounds, because there are legal obligations you have to observe. The license information has to be part of the product. It has to be physically available in the car. So it's not sufficient to just say in the manual, hey, go to that website, and not have the CD anymore. So, but it's actually kind of funny to have that relic of the past CD in your brand new high-tech Mercedes, isn't it? So what I'm trying to tell you is that at Mercedes, we already know how to use FOSS, but we're not quite there yet to fully embrace all aspects of FOSS. Okay, now you're probably going to go, wow, you already know how to use FOSS. Impressive, Daimler, good job. Yes, I know. But there are actually two aspects to using FOSS. One, not that long ago, just a few years back, we didn't really use much FOSS or any at all in our software development, because we were proud that we develop our own code, right? If it's not invented here, you probably shouldn't rely on it. Yeah, now that just isn't possible anymore. Even if you had all the budget in the world, you still wouldn't have all the time in the world, let alone the developer manpower to develop all the software yourself, right? And above all, of course, it just doesn't make sense to write code for which there already is a nice available solution out there, right? Of course, I'm preaching to the choir, I know. But in a big corporation, that requires a change of mindset that can be quite tricky and time consuming. And this change of mindset and how it can be done is sort of the point of this talk, so I will get back to this. The second aspect of just using FOSS is that you need to train your employees to have the necessary awareness and understanding of the obligations that this brings with it, namely license obligations, right? You can't just use FOSS, you have to understand licenses as well, especially if the things that you produce, in our case, vehicles or software centered around mobility and so forth, contain software. And that's, of course, where that CD originates. Just as an example, our current S-Class model contains about 100 different FOSS licenses, and our Mercedes Me app uses over 130 FOSS components in the Android version and about 50 for iOS. So that means our people have to understand licenses. And so we developed the training internally to that end, which everybody in IT has to do. Okay, so far, so good. Now, but just use, even if you understand licenses, is not enough. You don't want to be a freeloader. At least I don't want to be a freeloader. And you want to say thank you to the community. Thank you for letting me use your code all these years. And if you only use FOSS, you're also not utilizing so much of the potential that FOSS has, right? You know, you can contribute back. You can make it better here and there for everyone. You can help steer projects in the right direction that you and others benefit from. In FOSS, 1 + 1 a lot of times does equal 3, right? So, but that is what embracing FOSS means for us. Use, but also contribute and also create our own open source project and provide them to the community. We're still quite at the beginning in this latter aspect, I have to say, but we're working on it. In other words, embracing FOSS means to become an active member and a good citizen of the open source community. And this is what we are trying to achieve at Mercedes-Benz. So let me illustrate how. Now, such a complete change in mindset from only proprietary software towards open source requires a lot of communication in your company. In general, when implementing a big cultural change, you're faced with 3 challenges. First of all, how do we tell everyone? News in a big company, or if you take the whole Daimler or Mercedes group, a big set of company even, news in such a big company a lot of times travel slowly before they have reached everyone. I guess many of you also know this from your own experience. Second, how can we get people to actually implement the strategy, i.e. make it part of their day-to-day work? For example, in our case, how do we crank up the number of open source contributions coming from out of our company in order to become the good open source citizen that we want to be? So, and third, for me, actually the most important one, how do we get the open source way into the mindset of people? Because if you master this one, then the previous points basically follow automatically, because then people are motivated intrinsically to do this. So in short, we wanted to deeply ingrain FOSS into our company's DNA, if you will. And it had become clear to us that just communication isn't enough. We needed to do something radical to achieve this. Yeah, not just to have another strategic initiative, which big companies tend to have from time to time. Yeah, and then we kind of had the Agile Manifesto as an inspiration in the back of our heads, which was a really cool thing. And so we created the Mercedes-Benz FOSS Manifesto. It is a set of guidelines and core values which send our employees on their open source mission, knowing fully well that they are supported by the company. And it is now a key pillar in all of our FOSS endeavors. So now let us actually look at it. Here we go. Our FOSS Manifesto has 3 parts to it. The first one here is the preamble, in order to sort of set the stage, to give the manifesto a solemn note and to show that, that we mean business, that we are fully committed to the FOSS Manifesto. So it reads, the Mercedes-Benz FOSS Center of Competence and the CIO, and then the stuff in the middle, have decided to establish the following FOSS guiding principles. The FOSS Center of Competence is what we call our OSPO internally, our Open Source Programs Office. The preamble states our overall goals. If you read over this, that thereby we aim to improve the quality of our software, that we want to be active members of the open source community, and that we want to work on making this happen. Yeah, and one important thing is that also that the preamble shows, look, this is something that comes from the people at the base, and it's backed up fully by senior management. In our case, this actually goes to the very top, including our CEO, Ola Kelenius, who has endorsed it, and I'm very, very happy about this. All right, let's move on to the next page. The next two parts are the company's principles and the employees' principles. Here are the company principles. So a lot of times our employees are still a bit uncertain if they are allowed to have their own open source projects and if they are allowed to contribute to other open source projects. Because as I mentioned, that actually hasn't always been the case in the past for various reasons. The intention of the company principles is not only to show the employees that indeed they are allowed to do so, but it actually sends them on that mission. So the first principle here encourages employees to use, contribute to, and create projects, both in open and inner source endeavors. Now, a lot of times our employees will tell you, but I have to work productively on my project, and I don't have the time to work in open source on the side, even though it may be related to my work. So it is the purpose of principle number 2 to let the employees know that it is indeed absolutely okay for them to work on such projects as well, because this is actually something that creates value for everyone and for us too. So it's not at all wasted time or extra effort without benefit. Which is a
position. You have about 3 minutes left, okay?
Yes, thank you. So it's not all wasted time, or that's already said that, right? Yeah, a lot of times people who are not too familiar with open source think that is wasted time. Principle number 3 lets employees know that they're supposed to learn and grow with FOSS, take the time to do so, and, for example, attend conferences and perhaps give a talk. I don't need to mention that learning and exchange with experts is a great idea. I think that's pretty obvious. Principle number 4 strives to promote visibility, for example, through membership in open source foundations. We are, for example, a founding member of the Eclipse Foundation Europe, which is really cool. Members of the Linux Foundation, Cloud Native Computing, and a few more. All right, moving on. The next slide here are the principles from an employee point of view. All right, they basically ask of an employee to become more active in the FOSS world and think FOSS first. So principle number 1 says, please look for alternatives in open and inner source first before you write code for which there already is a solution. The old, let's not reinvent the wheel over and over again. All right, we emphasize inner source as well because we think this is really important too. But the order goes open source, inner source, custom code. Number 2 says, please be active in inner source. Number 3, please be active in open source. And lastly, number 4 is sort of a mini code of conduct. Please be nice, act responsibly, be a good citizen. Remember that how you behave out there will reflect back on you and on the company as a whole. So yeah, be nice. All right, to sum it up, we hope that our Mercedes-Benz FOSS Manifesto and its principles will help to facilitate the cultural change towards an open and inner source savvy company. I hope I've sparked your interest. Where can you find the FOSS Manifesto? Head to this website, opensourcemercedes-benz.com. This is our FOSS landing page. It is still brand new now. We've taken it live literally just a few weeks ago. So you can find some blog entries, not very many yet. you can find some of our open source projects, also not very many yet, because we're just starting with that. Hopefully soon, more. And you can find the FOSS Manifesto on that page. You can download it in 2 versions if you like. Head to the website and see what those 2 versions are. There's going to be a link to the GitHub repository with the manifesto. We will place it under Creative Commons 0 license, so you can download it, you can change it, use it for your purposes, and disseminate it as you please. Okay, yeah, that's it. Oh, one little thing, I have probably been using Daimler and Mercedes-Benz sort of interchangeably. As I said, Daimler is the mother company of Mercedes-Benz, and very soon will just be renamed to Mercedes-Benz only altogether. Hope that didn't cause confusion. Yeah, so that's it. Thank you. Take a look at our FOSS Manifesto. Let us know what you think. Are we missing some principles? Do we have enough? Do we have the right ones, the wrong ones? Yeah, tell us what's on your mind. Shoot us an email. The contact info is also on that webpage. Thanks very much for taking the time and listening. Have a great conference ahead. Thanks.